Biome Project by Stephen Baker and Derrick Petruchuis. Biomes are areas that have certain types of climate, plants, and animals. They are broken down into three groups, based on the differences between their climate, mainly the temperature and average rainfall. The groups are deserts, grasslands, and forests. These larger groups are broken down into smaller categories based on the types of climate within them, these being tropical, temperate, and cold. They are formed by the differences in average annual precipitation and temperature. There are three types of deserts: tropical deserts, temperate deserts, and cold deserts. Tropical deserts are dry and hot with very little plant and animal life. These are the deserts shown in movies. Temperate deserts change with the seasons and get the most precipitation out of all the deserts. While cold deserts are the last type. Winters here are cold, but summers are still warm or hot. The precipitation is low, but still higher than that of a tropical desert. Because deserts are extreme when it comes to climate, plants and animals have adapted to live there with very little water in the hot temperatures during the day and cold temperatures during the night. An example of an animal that lives in a tropical desert is the thorny devil. These guys come from deserts in Australia. They have rigid bodies that allow them to collect precipitation that forms on them at night. They are also cold-blooded and use the warm sun to regulate their body temperature. The barrel cactus is a type of plant that lives in the tropical desert. They have sharp thorns to keep animals away, and its roots are spread out far to collect rainfall. They can also store water inside them for future use. An example of a bird that lives in the temperate desert biome is a cactus wren. They make nests within the cacti found there. The water they collect is obtained from the food they eat. A desert marigold is a plant found within a temperate desert. They are very drought resistant, which allows them to survive with little water. They have little hairs on them that increase light reflection, making their temperature cooler and allows them to block ultraviolet rays. Finally, cold deserts. An animal from a cold desert is a neat little creature called a jerboa. They are native to the Gobi Desert. Jerboas are nocturnal, so they only come out at night. This is due to the nights being cooler. They also live in burrows during the day for the same reason, to keep cool. They have really cool hind legs like kangaroo, which allow them to jump high and run as fast as 15 miles per hour. A plant from a cold desert is the saxaul tree. It is able to retain moisture behind its bark, effectively storing water for use. The next biome is grasslands, and they are found in the middle of continents because they are too moist for deserts to form, but also still dry for forests to form. Grasslands are also split into three types. There's tropical grasslands, also known as savannas. They contain scattered trees and usually have warm temperatures year-round. They also have a wet season and a dry season. They receive the second most rainfall of all the grasslands. There are two types of temperate grasslands: short grass prairies and long grass prairies. In these prairies, the wind is always blowing and precipitation is evaporated quickly, allowing wildfires to easily break out and get rid of the extra brush. These temperate grasslands have been converted to farmland due to the soil being fertile. They also receive the most rainfall. Cold grasslands, also known as Arctic tundras, are very cold and are covered by ice and snow. The very little precipitation these areas receive is in the form of snow. The area also has permafrost, or frozen soil, which stops water from going into the soil. This in turn causes shallow pools to form on the soil. Due to its unique climate, tundras receive the least amount of rainfall than any of the other grasslands. The types of grasslands have varying climates. As such, animals and plants need certain adaptations to survive there. For them to survive in a savanna, they need to have the same adaptation as those organisms from the desert biomes, the ability to survive in heat with very little water. In tundra organisms, they need the opposite, the ability to survive in the cold, frigid temperatures.
An example of an animal that lives in a savanna is a warthog. They have sharp tusks for defense against predators. They typically eat plants and roots which they use their tusks to dig up. They are able to go for long periods of time without water, often up to months. A plant that lives in a savanna is Bermuda grass. It thrives in warm climates, making the savanna a perfect place to grow. Next is an animal native to temperate grasslands, the bison. Bison are grazers, so they travel in herds and eat grasses that are so abundant in prairies. A plant native to temperate grasslands is called blazing stars. They are ornamental plants with long stalks and purple flowers. They are native to the tall grass prairies of Midwestern America. Finally, an animal from a tundra or cold grassland is an Arctic fox. They are able to survive in the harsh cold due to their thick fur, short ears, and their short muzzles. They live in burrows, which also allows them to keep warm. An example of a plant native to a tundra is Arctic moss. Arctic moss is an aquatic plant that grows underwater and in moist areas. They are able to store energy to use even when it isn't growing and grows low to the ground to avoid the harsh winds and cold. The last biome is the forest. Forests are areas that have many trees. They are also broken down into three main categories, but have some variations. The first subcategory is tropical rainforests. These are typically found near the equator and receive lots of precipitation. The most out of all forests. Tropical rainforests have a lot of biodiversity and are very productive. The next is temperate deciduous forests. They grow in areas with more moderate temperatures and change with the seasons. They receive abundant rainfall, but still less than tropical rainforest. Within these forests are deciduous trees, or trees that lose their leaves for the winter and become dormant. Then there are evergreen coniferous forests, also known as taiga. Winters are long and dry and very cold. In taigas, they contain coniferous evergreen trees which have needle-shaped wax-coated leaves that can withstand the cold climate. This type of forest receives the least amount of rainfall. Finally, there is coastal coniferous forest or temperate rainforest. They receive a good amount of rainfall. These forests contain large conifers that once dominated the land. Forests have large amounts of biodiversity, mainly from the fact that the differences between rainfall and temperatures is so large. Tropical rainforests have many unique plants and animals living in them. One example of an animal living in a tropical rainforest is the kinkajou, kinkau, I don't. They live in the close canopy and eat the fruits found there. An example of a plant is the bougainvillea, a plant that grows in the Amazon rainforest. It uses its vines to latch onto smaller plants for support and has adapted to be able to grow in direct sunlight or semi-shade. Its leaves have drip tips that allow it to get rid of rushing water from the abundant rain quickly. Examples of plants and animals from a temperate deciduous forest. The duck-billed platypus is an animal found there. The platypus has webbed feet and a flat tail that allows it to swim. Their thick fur keeps them dry and warm, and their tails store fat for energy. The shagbark hickory is a tree found in temperate deciduous forests. They can grow to be 100 feet tall, and they grow very well in both wet and dry areas. Examples of an animal found in a taiga biome is the gray wolf. They have thick coats made of woolly fur that provide good insulation against the harsh temperatures. Their paws are large and have fleshy pads and claws that provide them with traction and support in the deep snow. A plant that lives there is the white spruce tree. They grow tall and are shaped like pyramids. They have needle-like leaves to hold in the moisture. Finally, an example of an animal that lives in a temperate rainforest biome is the chipmunk. They live in burrows inside trees and eat nuts, berries, and other small plants in the area. A plant that lives in a temperate rainforest biome is the Indian paintbrush. They are a very colorful flower. That's a wrap, folks.